Mondello's life took a turn when President Trump appointed him U.S. ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago. Now, Ambassador Mondello is back on Long Island and here with us today. News 12's Power and Politics begins right now. And welcome to News 12's Power and Politics. I'm Rich Barabi. He is a fixture in Nassau County politics and holds the title of the longest-serving county chairman in New York State history. For 35 years, Joe Mondello headed up Nassau County's Republican Committee. He also served as chairman of the state Republican Party in the mid-2000s as well. All of that was until he was nominated by President Trump in 2018 to serve as U.S. ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago. Ambassador Mondello spent the last several years on the twin Caribbean islands and just recently returned to here, Long Island, now that the Biden administration is in place. He joins us now to talk about his ambassadorship and his time spent there. Joe Mondello, Ambassador, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Good to see you once again back here on Long Island. So I guess to start off here, tell us about what it was like on those twin islands serving as the ambassador. What is the role? What was the situation there on the ground?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, the weather there is beautiful, and it always is between, I would say, 80 and 90 degrees, and it's a very enjoyable place to be. The government, however, I'll get right to the point, is definitely not looking at the United States the way they should. And I have to say it, I have to be completely blunt about it, because they had, in fact, their prime minister, his name is Keith Rowley, although a nice gentleman, made a statement to the paper that the United States was Trinidad's partner of the past, and that China is their partner of the future. And that seems to be the thought in the minds of many of the Caribbean island chieftains, so to speak. And that's something we have to be very, very wary of, because we spend so much time fighting among ourselves, and I learned this when I got away, fighting among ourselves here in New York and Nassau County, that sometimes we forget that there's a rest of the world, and that they are taking things very seriously. And you've got China, who wants to be the number one country in the world, and we're in their way. And frankly speaking, it's something we have to be very concerned with. I'm not getting this from reports I'm receiving here in New York, but this is my experience when I was in Trinidad and Tobago, and in my conversations with other ambassadors in the Caribbean area. And you've got Russia, Iran, you've got China, all coming into places like Venezuela, which is only 6.7 miles from Trinidad. And they are making inroads in these countries. And
let me ask you, because, you know, there's a perception that when a new president comes into office, obviously career diplomats are going to get some of the big ambassadorships, but some of these others get handed out. And they say, look, Mondello got this cushy job on an island. He's probably sitting in the sand loving life. Doesn't sound like that's really the role. Talk about being an ambassador there then in a country where the leadership doesn't necessarily love America.
I wish it was the way you formally described it. I would have liked to sit in the sand, but no, it was more than that. There are a lot of issues there. There are a lot of issues. You know, it's a country that really made its mark in the oil industry, as I'm sure you're aware, and they have a little bit of agriculture. And they've depended on the United States for many years, and the United States has done very well by them. But they are at the point now where they take us very much for granted, and so there's a real pushing and shoving regarding who's going to really have the biggest influence on the governmental officials in Trinidad and Tobago, and the reason for that is frankly the Chinese coming in and doing a lot of things. They think they're giving something away, but they don't give anything away for nothing. The Chinese don't do that.
So you're down there, you're in the middle of your role now as an ambassadorship. It's a new role for you, obviously. And then this global pandemic hits. So now you're in a very different place, and you've got to balance not only your role there in trying to help folks who may be there, maybe we don't have enough PPE, we don't have the supplies, but also your own personal health. What was that like?
Well, it was concerning because you're in a third world country and you don't know how things are going to fall out in regard to whether the people are going to be careful in the sense of not spreading the virus around. Actually, Trinidad was pretty good at that. They started very early in closing things down, and they have made good strides when it comes to controlling the COVID. They have. I'd be less than honest if I told you anything different. They work very well in regard to that situation. So they're the people that have the COVID there. They're very few. There's not that many. So they're doing quite well.
Certainly glad to hear that. No question, especially when you consider what's gone on in this country and continues to go on. Now, let's talk about how you got there. So, President Trump, you were a big supporter early on. I remember back to the GOP primary. The Trump campaign was here. It was at Grumman Studios in Bethpage, big rally. Thousands showed up. You stumped for him at that event. I want to play you a portion of the report I did that day. This was in April of 2016. The Trump campaign has become synonymous with bucking the political establishment. But here on Long Island, longtime Nassau GOP chairman Joe Mondello says Trump has the ability to back up his brash rhetoric.
I've had occasion to speak with him on a one-to-one basis, Rich, and I found him to be a very, very intelligent man.
So the president at that time was running on a very anti-establishment message, talking about draining the swamp. You could not be more establishment, at least here on Long Island at that time, and yet you got along very well. You end up being ambassador. Tell us how that relationship worked.
Well, I got to know him